Hi, John.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Fine,
Hey,
thank you
John.
very much. Now, this first one is just an orientation of what we're going to be doing, but I want to go through a few things
Okay.
because I want to start positioning you as quickly as possible. Can only get you out there a little bit so I can get some feedback from my CPO and opportunity for you to generate business.
Okay.
Um, First of all, before I even start, do you have any questions? That would be rude of me just to go right into it. So.
No, not at all, John. I really didn't have any expectations, any specific expectations for this call. I figured it would just kind of level set, figure out how we're gonna conduct these meetings
Right.
going forward and what we're gonna do, what the goals and
Okay.
objectives are.
Well, the first step now, I've tagged you on a number of posts I've done.
I know I
Well,
can't keep up, John. I
what's
can't.
that?
I haven't been able to keep up this week. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. I'm trying to gradually introduce you in the narrative because, as you know, I've got a large
Yep.
following, but more so, I want to show you the direction and path that
Yep.
the industry is going into. So that's number one. Number two, I want to do right off the bat a recorded demo session. Now, when I talk about a demo session, I'm not looking for a feature, function, and benefits. I did a post today on what I consider to be a proper demo session. I want you to come across not as a tech company with a cookie cutter solution, but your expertise behind what you've developed it. I want people to start seeing you differently from everyone else in the industry. I want them to see you as a problem solver. Yes, we have tech. Yes, we will demonstrate it, but let's go through our process of demoing. What are some of the problems the clients have come to us with? How have we solved it? What's our logic? And then get into a demo. Do you see where I'm going?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I just
Yeah.
read that post. So yes, it was set up
Yeah.
nice. Mhm.
And that's critical because what's happening is the new tech that's evolving. There's going to be two types of companies. They're going to be the front end organizations who have the functionality, et cetera, that attaches to the back end operating systems. There are actually a number of AI operating systems being developed. Give you an idea, Zycus has Microsoft. They use the Microsoft platform as their operating system. There are other ones though that are more advanced, that aren't generalized, that are coming out, and they're going to be dividing these companies in two. I want you to be able to fall into one of those categories. Now, I'm not sure you're an operating system company at this point, but I do know you're smart enough to integrate with an operating system and give people the immediate value, and that you can create the functionality on the front end so that they can implement and leverage that ability. So you have a certain elasticity of thing. You're not saying here is the absolute framework solution. Everybody's the same. We're not selling a spreadsheet. Unfortunately, most demos, that's what they do, sell a spreadsheet. Do you see where I'm going here? I want you to be standing out as an expert problem solver and a consultant to clients who happen to have the technological ability and know-how to make technology work and extend it and grow it to the higher level of true AI. Questions?
No questions. More challenges about. I mean, here's the challenge for that, John. I mean, I every time I do a demo, it's always tailored to, that's why we do discovery first, because I could go in so many different directions with a demo, but usually we kind of understand what their initial problems are, the challenges they have. So I try to tailor that demo for. So in this general demo, I have to think about how to do that and try to cover as much of typical challenges or even very specific challenges, right, in one demo, unless you think
Okay,
that
let
we
me
can
interrupt
break it
this.
up.
This is
Yeah.
an interesting thing. This is
Yeah.
actually what I want to hear. What
Yeah.
you're saying is I don't have a turnkey demo that one size fits all. I
Correct.
have
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and this is the key. So you'll go in and you obviously have client implementations. You
Yeah.
obviously have had some success. Not everyone is exactly the same. So you've had the ability to adapt and tailor to those things. The
Right.
methodology of that discovery, what does that entail?
Well, here's normally we get a sense of what they're trying to do, right? A lot of times they're looking for a kind of out of the box solution. That's what a lot of them come to us with. And whether it's diversity, spend reporting, but then when it comes to supplier management, then we get into, oh, we have these types of suppliers. We're trying to manage their risks, insurance, safety. So that opens up a whole new, for us, it's really, I have like many different demos depending on what they're looking for. But when it comes to supplier management, I do typically try to, approach it in a more generic way, and that, okay, here's how one company does it versus another company does it. And then sometimes I'll go further and say, this is one of our more complicated implementations where, we're addressing many different things at different suppliers. So I usually go into that, that type of mode. But my question is more about in what you're asking for. Are we talking about a single demo or the bits and pieces of that where we can maybe piece it together into something that's more cohesive in how it's presented? Because
Well,
there's different aspects of it, right?
Actually, what we're talking about right now is the demo that we're recording.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I mean, though.
That's
So
what we're doing right now is the process. You see,
okay.
when I share and introduce you to people,
Yeah.
everyone will say, here, I'll show you a demo. Let's set one up. We'll show it how it works and whatever. And I've never seen in 40 years a demo actually blow up. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not going to demonstrate something that doesn't work.
Right.
What you were saying more importantly is, let's not talk about the technology first. Let's talk about the challenges. Why are you calling us? What challenges and problems are you looking to think outside of the box? What form does that take? See, that's the whole reason we're recording this, is because I want them to see you not as a tech company, but as an expert company, as a problem-solving company. And these kinds of honest discussions we're having. And sorry, you're not on screen, Holly.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
I know. I'm sorry you're not. I'm just saying.
I know,
but anyway.
No, but I mean, John, I mean, you can speak to Peak, right? As a good example, because when Peak reached out through, our discovery process, they were looking at supplier diversity. And then when I started to explain the bigger picture in terms of not having multiple portals, so the suppliers don't know where to go, they didn't have something that was supplier facing. So they ended up being, we didn't show you that, but Peak is utilizing almost everything across the spectrum, right? Across all the divisions, or opcos, I should say. So, but that wouldn't have, if we could have kept them right where they wanted to be and stood up, supplier diversity platform for them, but ultimately that wasn't going to solve their bigger issues, right? Which we were aware of without having the discovery.
So is it safe to say sometimes, sorry to interrupt, John, is it safe to say they sometimes come with you, a practitioner will have a certain problem they think they have, and through the conversation, the consultative process, you'll actually discover other problems that are related or connect to that you would want to address?
Absolutely.
I mean,
that's how
you're
it
not
always
going
happens.
in there with a preconceived, this is what we're selling.
Right. Yeah. That's usually what happens. And what happens is they come to us with some very general, challenges about their supplier management. Either they don't have it or here's the challenges that they're facing. And then when we start going deeper into that, then they realize, or at least we point out that, oh, there's more to this than what they're just addressing their biggest issues. But what we try to do is try to ask the questions that will kind of highlight some of the things that they haven't even thought about, right? So I think what I can do is, perhaps frame it in a way where it's more general in the supplier management perspective, where because we kind of
I don't need a demo. This is our demo. Right now, what we're talking about is our demo.
Yeah. So
John,
and the reason I did that, John, is because how you respond to that question. If I say I want to see a demo, someone say, okay, let me share the screen. I'll show you some slides and this or demo that. You're talking about it. You're saying is that your strength is problem solving because of your collective expertise. Now you're not taking on 30 or 40 clients all at once. There's a
Right.
strategic growth path. There are
Right.
certain elements. Is it safe to say, John, there are certain elements from one solution that you put in place, a certain percentage of that will be usable in other solutions?
Oh
Like
yeah.
you've got a building block. IBM used to call it
Yeah.
a building block approach, where different
Right.
solutions would go towards building something
Sure.
collectively.
Sure. Yeah.
I was never
Let
a
me
big
give you.
fan. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say, let me share an example with you, John, where what we run into. Well, what I notice is a common across the board. When they talk about supplier management, they look at it it's like there's a supplier is a supplier is supplier, but they're not, right? And this is like the one of the kind of, oh yeah, I get that now. So for example, when we talk about, what kind of suppliers do you have? We have suppliers, we have people, but they're not. So you have suppliers that are more of an AP function, right? They just need to pay somebody, so they need to know what their remit to stuff is. Pretty simple, like vendors, goods, the Home Depots, the catering company, so those are they don't even think about those usually. They usually focus on their suppliers that they have ongoing interactions with, the subcontractors, for example, where they have to evaluate risk through insurance or safety. And then there's some specialized suppliers that are very specific to their business. For example, like engineering consulting company. Well, they have a lot of independent consultants, right? And that's a supplier as well. So they when they come to us, they think, oh yeah, we need to manage our suppliers, but they're usually more siloed in what they're thinking about their suppliers. But our approach is, hey, let's handle all your suppliers, because they're all your suppliers. Different departments have different there's different stakeholders in supply, right? AP for paying somebody, supply chain for some of the risk and compliance type stuff, and then you have also your procurement and your buyers, right? I mean, normally they just go in and say, oh yeah, I want to hire the supplier, whether I'm buying something from a product from them or a service. It's usually that buyer that's managing that process, and they don't, there's no oversight. There's no I don't know if there's really any accountability, because they're doing this on their own, right? So they're managing their purchasing on their own, even though there's guidelines and policies overarching their process. The way they go about it is very individualized, right? And so that they're part of this process too, because when they try to onboard somebody, they're, buyer A, buyer B, they have very specific requirements when they engage a supplier, right? I'm buying goods, I'm buying services, I'm hiring a construction company. Very different, but there's still that initial kind of, here's what I need, and their buyer A's needs are different from buyer B's needs. So that, once we start going into that, then it starts to make more sense to them that, okay, yeah, it is a more of a holistic view of your supplier management, not just, X suppliers, but we also try to tell them, look, you don't have to solve all those issues. If you're just worried about subcontractors with insurance and safety, yeah, we can certainly do that for you. And then, but it's not until later they decide, you know what, this is working so well for us. We want to do this for everybody else. So then that's fine too. And we recommend that phased approach, because in trying to do a proper supplier management, it requires buy-in from a lot of different people, right? And you don't usually get that unless there's a higher initiative that says, yeah, we need to solve this for an entire enterprise. It's usually procurement or somebody that's in charge of supply chain that says, look, we need to manage this, but they're usually looking at it from their perspective of their suppliers, right? Their supply base, which is not really the whole picture. So what I can do is I can approach it in the demo in a way that where approach it in a more generic way and say, okay, and maybe highlight more of the challenges that people face or people approaches with, and show examples of how we implement it, but not go too much into the product, because once they see, oh yeah, this is an onboarding form, they know, okay, this is what it's for, or hopefully they understand what that means or what it's doing. And then on the review and qualification process, I think that's pretty easy to understand as well, even though, one company may have safety reviews, insurance reviews, all that stuff. I mean, if that doesn't apply to you, they know, okay, that we don't need to do that, but I can cover those different types of parts of the process. I like to approach it more from a process standpoint, because to me that changes their perspective on our solution, because it's not just a tool anymore. It's more of a, it's a people and technology solution, not just a tool, right? You put in place, not a cookie cutter
Okay,
tool.
let me ask you this, because I like this whole approach. So I've got a couple of questions.
Mhm.
The first one is how do you suggest a prospective practitioner prepare to have a demo with you? Like, what is the process? What should they know? What should they be ready with? And I'm not talking about, oh, we got a list of wants and things like this,
Mhm.
but to what degree is their knowledge so critical to help you and guide you into recommending the right path? Do you know what I'm saying? You mentioned earlier, well, there's
Yeah,
somebody who said I have a supplier issue, but then no, really it's into the area over here. I mean,
yeah.
is there any preparation in advance, or is it coming with the expectation that their original problem or issue or concern is on the table, but you understand and delve deeper into what that
Yeah.
actually means?
Yeah,
Like,
it's more the latter. Usually all we want to know is, what are your challenges and what are you trying to do, or what are you trying to solve? And then during that demo process, I will go into other areas that they probably haven't even thought about, right? And so that's where, this the light bulb goes off and goes, oh yeah, yeah, that's another problem of ours too.
Yeah,
What
and we also,
one
John, we also
yeah,
ask lots of questions too, in terms of
yeah,
their organization, how they do this, how they manage that, right? How many
yeah,
platforms are managing supplier data? Where do you keep this information versus that? I mean, so we're bringing information in too, right? To obviously
yeah,
drive where we're going in our conversation.
right.
Sorry.
now,
Yeah, I
the
mean, we
comfort
really
zone. Oh, go ahead, John.
I was gonna say we really just need, I mean, just to get started, we don't need a lot of upfront work to discuss this. But usually it's just, describe your problems, and that's usually gives us enough to go on just to be able to go to the demo. But I can tell you a lot of times what happens is, because of how we try to, make this a more of a comprehensive thought or holistic view of your supplier management, then there's more things that come up from that, and then it gets them to thinking. And sometimes it it doesn't, it doesn't benefit us, because then they say, oh God, this is a much bigger problem. Now I need to start getting other people involved, and so that, it becomes a bigger kind of like an enterprise kind of thing. But we try not to do that, but sometimes it becomes, we kind of highlight some things that they need to start thinking about. So it kind of puts the brakes on what their initial thought was, which, in the end, that's a good thing for them.
Yeah.
Not for us, but
Well,
in the
not
end,
not right up front, not right up
yeah,
front, because obviously, if they take you on as a client, 80% of all initiatives fail, John and
yeah,
Holly. That means,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
had many senior VPs from the solution provider side come up and
mhm,
say, "We've taken on business, we just didn't feel there was a fit, but we got the
yeah,
business anyway to get a
right,
logo."
yeah,
That's not how you work.
yeah. No, that is not. And here's another thing that I noticed too. It's once we do start doing the implementation, and we start delving deeper into the workflow, the handoffs, the quality reviews, the toll gate, the quality gates and all that, then they realize, oh, we didn't think about this, right? Or yeah, oh wait, we need there's always exceptions
Yeah.
to the general rule. And that always comes up. But we always have a solution for that. And a lot of times we'll think, it's not that difficult of a problem. I mean, these exceptions, you feel like, oh, it's a not it's a huge hurdle, but it really is. A lot of times it's really not. But a perfect example is peak utilities. in going through the process and trying to walking them through a proposed kind of workflow. It started off with, oh, okay, we need assurance review and safety review. Well, guess what? At the end of it, by the time we ended up implementing it, there was a safety exception, there was a AP review, and there was a final approver review, and then there's an payment terms review.
And exception
Right.
payment terms. Yes,
Right.
all of that.
It became, yeah. So now, but they realized that because of how we designed their workflow, that there are detours that take place when you're onboarding a supplier, and that they need to have a place to go when these things go, because once you start looking at your suppliers and really start reviewing them, there usually are exceptions to that, and somebody needs to step in and make the decision, right? You don't want the buyer to make those decisions. And like the payment terms is a perfect example. It wasn't until we started going through the process where they realized, you know what, our payment terms are all over the place. We have 60 different payment terms. And why is that? And so they went through the initiative to, hey, let's standardize our payment terms, because we have 6 different operating companies. They all have different payment terms. There's no standards whatsoever. And so they decide, you know what, let's make everybody, let's try to see if we can standardize our payment terms policy and use and then enforce that at the supplier review process, so that hey supplier, here's our supplier management solution. This is our policy. This is our standard payment terms for subcontractors. This is our payment terms, standard payment terms for goods providers. You either agree to it or not. And if you don't agree to it, then give us a way to capture why don't you agree to it, or why don't you want to agree to it. And then somebody else makes that decision, right? Their controller actually makes the decision whether they allow that exception or not. So, this all came about as part of our implementation and solution design. And it made sense to do it up front, that rather than do it later. Now with that, the launch of the platform was the best time in their mind. It was their best time to implement such a policy. So, we helped them sort of think through, their supplier management as a whole. And ironically, the same customer came to us with, hey, we just need a supplier diversity solution.
Yeah,
and yeah, they came to us with a supplier, tier 1 spend solution, and then basically they just wanted to know how much diversity spend they have. And after we started showing them the platform, they're like, that's another initiative of ours, is to manage this. And it ended up being all of the above, right? When we finally did implement.
To-dos, it was their supplier playbook.
Yeah.
So Holly, going back to our long history, because I've known you for years, and John, obviously just met you, but going back to the long history, what it really comes down to is you're not going in there with a predetermined solution. You've got a platform, a framework, but you're going there to basically solve problems, which leads to another question: bench strength. You know what I mean when I say bench strength? Is like the depth of expertise, the breadth of expertise within your organization. I take it you're highly selective on who you would bring on as a client or not, obviously.
Yeah.
Or would you? I mean, for example, would you ever walk away from business if it just wasn't the right fit, or you didn't believe you could deliver on what they required? Because you said something interesting earlier, John. You said, sometimes it's good news for them, bad news for us from a sales standpoint, at least on the immediate side of the equation. But I take it you do have a foundation of expertise that can handle more than one client, and certainly with multiple clients in similar industry, you're able to transfer some of that knowledge over and accelerate and improve throughout. I mean, is that a fair statement?
Well, it sounded like you asked me 2 questions. One is the depth of our and then the other one is do we are we selective about our customers? So let me answer the second one first. We weren't at first selective about our customers. but it wasn't until after lessons learned that we realized, we have a certain profile of a customer that fits well with what we do. It's not, and it's not the big companies. They're looking for, they're looking for solutions like Coupa or something like that. And whether or not it's the right solution for them or not, it's hard for us to convince them, and we don't try to, right? They're already predetermined to say, oh yeah, we need something, an enterprise solution that, we're an enterprise solution. We're just not a big name like Coupa or Zycus. Right. So the second one, we we don't have any industry, and this is what I was telling you before. We don't have any. What we're heavy in the safety area. I mean the energy sector. We don't have really any industry experts within. So I want to say we don't have we don't have a lot of different areas of subject matter in the in-house. And that's why I was telling you in the beginning, it's like, look, we are, technology practitioners. We just happen to know this space really well, but I'm not a supply chain expert. I mean, I know the process. This is not my day-to-day work. My day-to-day is, providing them with a solution, the technology solution to help them. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but so we don't. That's
It
why
actually does. It actually does answer my question.
Okay.
Because again, and it goes back to the basic of problem solving first.
Yeah,
Agent-based
yeah,
modeling, problem solving first.
yeah,
You know where you're strong.
yeah,
You know where your ideal candidates are to work with, etc. You're not
yeah,
looking to build a enterprise that's going to be on the FP 500
right.
or acquire like that. You're solving problems in the areas of your expertise from a
Right.
technology standpoint, and that's why the practitioner is a partner in the process. It's not here, we can sell you magic and AI will
Yeah,
solve all your problems. Plug this in and away we go.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
actually work with the practitioner to try to better understand their problem themselves, even, and then
you,
collaborate and leverage your strength, which is the
right.
technology side of the equation. I
Yeah,
mean, is that a fair statement, Holly?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so this for me is the demo I'm going to share. I'm going to
Okay.
use this recording that you send me to share and send
Okay.
it out because far too often when I say, can I see a demo? Okay, yeah, look what we can do. And it
Sure,
goes to the
sure.
screen. I
Yeah,
want your strength to be, because we're coming into a new era, and an era is one of problem solving because the technology, I think you have to admit, John, the technology isn't like it was 30 years ago.
oh yeah,
It isn't a major debugging. I often kid around saying
yeah.
DBase2 programming that I did in the 80s. I mean, you had one thing working in one area, then someone said,
Yeah,
add this. Next thing you
right.
know, the place that was working before wasn't. The
Yeah.
technology is more sound now than it ever was. That's a
Oh,
fair statement.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So what
Yep.
we
Yep.
need is the collaborative perspective, and what your real goal is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's to solve the customer problems that your client problems that are in your area of strength and
Yeah.
expertise. Is that
Yeah.
the best way to sum it up?
Yes, yes, absolutely, John. And I have a hard stop at 1:30, but I'll say this one last thing before we go. When we talked initially, John, we talked about, I was looking to you to really help us figure out, where are the gaps in our solution? And I kind of know what they are, but the problem for us is we're not in the space enough to really understand, like, where are things going. Like you've already said, things are changing at the moment, and so for us it's more like, where do we prioritize our time and effort, based on what gaps are we trying to fill? Because to me, we certainly want to continue evolving and covering those gaps, right? And so that's why I wanted to get your perspective on that and get some input from you, because that is, we don't, we could go in so many directions right now. It's it's crazy because and it's hard for me to kind of just it's hard for me to kind of forecast whether is that going to be the right decision or not because I don't know. I'm not exposed enough to what
You're
what the
absolutely right. See, and that's what I love about the whole setup of the organization is the fact that quite frankly, you're problem solvers and have an ability and open and capable to adapt, and you have a proven track record. It's not like you're a new company. You have a proven track record of success. And the important thing you said to me, which makes me comfortable with what you can do, the important thing is we learned our lessons of which clients we work with and which ones we walk away from. And so this is the starting point. And this is what I want people to see. This is unrehearsed, it's raw, it's truthful. And then what we'll do is carry on from there, and we'll have our weekly calls. I'll follow up with you, Holly and John, tomorrow. We'll give you a little bit of feedback on this. But overall, this is your demo. As far as I'm concerned, this is the best.
It is truly how we differentiate ourselves, but it is hard to put it in. Great idea. Perfect.
All right. All right. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And send me the copy of the recording, please.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll do. Thanks, John.
Take care. Bye.